We are living in a strange time when the world is waking up to the fact that we are living in a fabricated reality, where our history is not matching the evidence being unearthed. What we were taught to believe about the Bible and our past is turning upside down. The leaders and teachers we trusted to tell us the truth about where we came from and where we are going led us astray. The pastors who were supposed to lead the flock to safety are turning out to be Judas, and they have sold us out for 30 pieces of silver. The evidence is mounting that Jesus kept his word and returned and reigned for the 1,000 years period called the Millennial Reign. We are now living in the period few have ever heard of called Satan's short season, the age of deception. The following evidence you will see is about showing the world how Satan is in his short season and his tactics of deception, revealing who is working for him and how they do it. Know thy enemy. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and you can believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth. The Matrix. The Matrix was a science fiction movie spawning onto the scene in the late 1990s. The main character, Neo, has been awakened by freedom fighters living outside his reality. Neo has learned that his entire life has been nothing more than an illusion. He has in reality been cocooned in a pod along with the entire human race. All but a few escaped this enslavement during the Great War between man and machine. Neo awakens to find that everything he thought to be real is an illusion. His entire reality has been created for him by a controlling force. Neo learns the planet has been hardwired into a matrix, a mind-melding computer and human simulated world. Each person lives out their existence believing every taste and thought is their own. When Neo learns the truth of his existence, he joins the freedom fighters in a battle to save humanity from the evil Matrix. Now, possessing special knowledge given him by the separatist, he takes on the Matrix in a battle to the death. The reality of what the movie The Matrix is really about will come to you as quite a shock. It seems, like it or not, the Matrix is your life. Though you are not laying in a pod being controlled by a computer, you are being controlled by a matrix. This matrix comes to you in the form of thought control or information control. The movie is not made up of pure fiction. Far from it. What in essence was mockingly being shown to you is your existence. You are in a matrix, a prison of thought that has been created for you. The clothes you wear, the food you eat, the car you drive, the politician you vote for has entirely been pre-programmed into your psyche. You are a prisoner who is aware something is wrong but unable to recognize what it is. You have been reprogrammed to live out a lie. Are you ready to awaken from your prison? Reach out your hand.
Hey guys, it's Dan from the Sons of Light and the Abundant Life University. And we're talking about a subject today that is growing in popularity and understanding. And it's dealing with the millennial kingdom of Jesus and a thing called Satan's short season, of which most Christians have never heard of before. And I grew up most of my life not knowing about this subject. I knew about Satan's short season, but I was still of the mindset, after many years of being just programmed by this Schofield Bible teacher message of Jesus coming back either for a rapture or for a millennial kingdom in the future. And I was completely led to believe this, and some very convincing twisting of scripture to make it happen. And later, as I went on, I began to discover more and more evidence that didn't quite add up, especially the extreme push towards Christian Zionism. And what really led me to start investigating all of this was the connection between the pastors and them on channels, their teachings of false messages, and then their complete loyalty and pushing constantly of supporting people who are against Christ. The further I got into it, I began to discover that these false pastors were receiving mega donations. You wonder, how did they end up with a giant church? How did they end up with the outreach of a worldwide ministry on channels owned by people who are against Christ? Nobody would ever put somebody on there if it completely opposes their religion. And these pastors got jets and worldwide ministries and book deals and all of these sorts of things. And it didn't make any sense to me. So the further I investigated, I found out about this Scofield Bible, the interjection of this by the agents of Rothschild to get the introduction into the churches, which no one had taught this for 2,000 years. In fact, they realized there was a great separation between the religions and ideologies of, and your religious teachings makes the Torah, the Old Testament, of no effect. And he called them of your father, the devil. 2,000 years. And all of this didn't come about, this connection, until the 1960s, when this Scofield Bible started to get heavily introduced into the public through the Jesus freak movement. The 60s, this counterculture Jesus revolution going against the establishment, which was the same exact thing going on with the counterculture revolution of the late 60s, of the free love, the rock and roll music, the drug, and everything was being orchestrated. The Church of Satan arose and came about. And as you learn studying heavily into this, you have a huge connection with the destroying of the traditional church and finding governmental organizations involved in the pushing of all of this strange stuff. And from a people group opposing Christian America, most Christians, when confronted by issues such as dark forces or manipulating things, the best they can do is say, it's the devil, it's Satan, which is a cop-out, because Satan has men and women working for him, physical men and women that make things happen. And what I've come to discover is part of this movement coming out of the 60s, of the whole revolution or counterculture, was this dispensational teachings coming out of this Scofield Bible, which the guy was a false preacher, and the teaching of this millennial kingdom and kingdom to come, when the old teachings before this time, most all pastors taught that the Bible was a history book, that all of the Bible was a history book of things that had already happened. And what we find is these modern pastors have taken 2, 4, 5,000-year-olds and found ways to make them and twist them and make them about modern events happening today, whether they tag them to a country or an event taking place, and then everything is 666 and the Antichrist. And what we find is, going back in historical accounts, we can piece together pretty clearly that this 666 movement with the Antichrist stuff that's going on now, we find Nero nearly matches this completely and the events taking place. But the biggest thing with all of this dealing with the millennial kingdom is the fact that Jesus said, some of you standing here will not taste death before you see the Son of Man return. And I believe he said this 2 or 3 times, telling the people that were there in different subject matter that they would see this return of Christ during that time. There's a book called Reason to Believe. And it's dealing with Satan's short season here and how he has deceived the entire world. This entire message for most of my adult life since I was a child, believing in these things. And then I learned just how in depth through witchcraft, through manipulations of numbers and times and events, through the use of media, through the use of movies, how they had implanted messages from the time we were children, coupled with these pastors teaching these false messages. There were books written like the Left Behind series. There were movies, constant implantations into our mind, which made the entire church believe this so strongly that any other teaching, any other words against this caused cognitive dissonance. And in other words, it was like blasphemy to you. I would have felt that way years ago without all this in-depth study. And this book called Reason to Believe goes into depth, revealing how these things have been done to us. Most people, I'm going to tell you this right now. So if you're weak, if you can't handle being able to change your mind about something, if you can't take that, it's basically like a magic trick. If you can't take that someone has done a magic trick to you, if you can't accept that Satan is so wise and so cunning that he deceived 1/3 of the angels to follow him in heaven, that he couldn't fool you, if you can't accept these types of things, then this book will not be for you, because you basically have to be able to rethink and understand the world of deception that's going on in Satan's short season. But if you can take it, if you want to know what's going on, if you want to know your enemy and be able to fight back against him, if you want to know your enemy and not be fooled for the rest of your life, believing certain subjects, such as the last big event that happened that caused the whole world to shut down and begin to put this into their arms and their bodies, later causing a lot of people to suffer and get sick. And because of my knowledge of this book and the understanding, within 20 minutes of this information coming out a couple of years ago, I knew what was happening. There's something evil behind it. And more and more and more, yes, it was an evil event. Just like all of these events that have been taking place for many years. Many years ago, they persecuted and the government threatened and people ridiculed someone who said, I saw a UFO or I got abducted. And then just a couple years ago, the Navy comes out and the U.S. government comes out and said, oh yeah, there's UFOs. Guess what? Wow, they're real. And we've encountered different beings. And yes, there are people willing to do very dark agendas and work for Satan for money and different aspects during this lifetime. So I want to encourage you, if you want to know the truth, I mean, in-depth research, we're going back 20 years, along with photos to prove the statements in there, numerology things showing how the numbers they use to manipulate things were used to change our way of life. So if you can hack it, you want to know the truth, you want to not be fooled any longer. Jesus said, my people perish for lack of knowledge. If you want knowledge about this millennial kingdom thing, this Satan's short season and the deception going on, I suggest you get this book. There'll be a link to it in the description. It's called Reason to Believe. It is information you do not know. Even in-depth conspiracy theorists do not know all of this information. But it's something as a Christian, and knowing your enemy and able to fight in order to be able to fight against and call out subjects, you need to know this. You need to know this information. So grab a copy of Reason to Believe in the link below. This is Daniel from the Sons of Light and the Abundant Life University. You are going to be amazed, you're going to be shocked, but you won't be fooled ever again in your life.